You watch a person sit in silence while others argue with intensity. They offer no opinion, but seem to hold the most social weight. It is unsettling to realize how much power resides in that cold void. You might see this in a partner who uses silence as armor. Or, perhaps you have withheld your words to maintain a secret advantage. The mind uses silence as a tool to dominate without leaving traces. By the end, you will understand the predatory nature of the quiet self. The common belief is that silence indicates a lack of content or interest. However, behavioral psychology reveals that silence is often a sophisticated form of social management. When someone remains quiet in a loud room, they force others to fill the space. This creates a vacuum that pulls the thoughts and vulnerabilities of others into the open. Labels like controlling in our title describe a psychological strategy, not a person's character. Silence acts as a projection screen where people see what they most fear or want. It is an adaptive survival mechanism rooted in the conservation of social and emotional energy. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a distant parent. You may have spent years trying to guess what that parent was actually thinking. Their lack of verbal feedback made you work harder to please or appease them. In this dynamic, the silent person holds all the cards without ever showing their hand. The person who speaks is vulnerable because they have committed to a specific position. The person who says nothing remains a moving target that cannot be easily hit. This is not a moral failure, but a tactical use of human evolutionary instincts. In a tribal setting, the one who listened most had the most information about rivals. Information is a currency of survival, and silence is the most efficient way to collect it. We see this at work when a manager waits for everyone else to speak first. They are not just being polite, they are mapping the hidden allegiances of the room. By the time they speak, they already know exactly how to sway the final outcome. The group feels a quiet pressure to perform for the person who remains still. This creates a hidden hierarchy where the listener occupies the highest and safest position. The brain interprets a lack of information from others as a potential predatory threat. Consequently, we talk more to soothe our own anxiety when met with a blank stare. The quiet person is essentially harvesting your nervous energy to strengthen their own social standing. This is where the pattern becomes difficult to ignore once you see the mechanics. We mistake the silence for wisdom, when it is often just a calculated observation. It is a psychological trap that turns your need for connection into a source of leverage. What looks like calm is often a high-level scan of your deepest mental weaknesses. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a cold partner. The silence in the car after an argument feels heavier than any shouted insult. It forces you to relive your own words until you eventually begin to doubt yourself. The quiet self thrives on the noise that other people make in their desperation. This is the hidden architecture of power that operates in every quiet, empty room. The mind has learned that the best way to win is to never play. Understanding this reframes every peaceful person you have ever met in your daily life. What looks harmless here quietly reshapes everything later as we explore the psychological origins. The pattern is a survival response to an environment that demands constant, exhausting vocal performance. Choosing awareness over avoidance means looking at what is said in the gaps of speech. Staying with uncomfortable psychological truth allows us to see the strings behind the silence. Join a space where unspoken patterns are examined honestly to find the truth within. The psychological roots of strategic silence are often planted in the restrictive soil of early childhood. A child learns very quickly that speaking up can lead to unpredictable or even dangerous consequences. In an environment where a parent is volatile, silence becomes the ultimate emotional survival kit. The child observes that every word they utter is a potential target for criticism or anger. Consequently, the developing mind adopts a policy of total and absolute internal verbal containment. This is not a sign of shyness, but a calculated adaptation to a high-risk social landscape. Psychologist Erik Erikson noted that our sense of autonomy is forged in these early power struggles. If a child feels their voice is a liability, They learn to find power in withholding. They discover that by saying nothing, they can frustrate the adults who demand their compliance. This passive resistance is the first time the child feels they have any real control. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a quiet sibling. You may recall a brother or sister who never argued but always got their way. They mastered the art of the stone wall before they even learned to ride a bike. This behavior is a fear-based adaptation that prioritizes the safety of the hidden, inner self. The brain learns that as long as it remains silent, the ego stays perfectly protected. Evolutionary pressure also suggests that the silent observer has a massive advantage in any tribe. The individual who stays quiet can watch the social chess match without being a piece. They witness who is lying, who is loyal, and who is currently losing their social status. The mind archives this data, waiting for the exact moment when silence can be weaponized. We are biologically programmed to feel a sense of mystery toward those who do not speak. Our ancestors interpreted silence a sign of hidden strength or a connection to spirits. In the modern mind, this translates to a perception of high status and deep intellectual depth. We learn that by saying less, we can actually inflate our perceived value to the group. Social learning reinforces this when we see the strong, silent type rewarded in popular culture. The mind begins to associate the lack of verbal output with a position of unshakable authority. Over time, the neurological loops for spontaneous expression begin to fade and eventually disappear entirely. The individual becomes a professional container, holding back every impulse to maintain a secret advantage. This origin story explains why silence feels so heavy and intentional in our adult relationships. It is a behavior forged in the fires of survival and polished by the need for power. The child who hid their thoughts becomes the adult who controls the room through absence. Every moment of quiet is a brick in a wall that no one else can scale. What started as a way to avoid a scolding becomes a way to dominate a marriage. The mind is always protecting its most vulnerable parts behind a thick veil of nothingness. It is a mechanism that allows the self to exist without ever being truly known. We build these defenses because we are afraid that our words will reveal our true limits. Silence is the perfect mask because it can be whatever the observer needs it to be. The origin of quiet power is a deep, ancient fear of being seen and judged. By saying nothing, the individual remains perfect in the eyes of the confused, talking world. The internal strategy of silence manifests as a subtle but iron-fisted control over every social interaction. In professional environments, the silent individual often becomes the unofficial arbiter of every major group decision. By withholding their approval, they force colleagues to over-explain and second-guess their own best professional ideas. The room begins to orbit around the person who has said the least, seeking their elusive validation. This social expression is a way to claim authority without taking any of the actual risks. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a partner who pouts. This partner does not state their grievance, but allows their heavy silence to fill the entire home. You find yourself apologizing for things you did not do to break the suffocating quiet. In this moment, the silent person is exercising total psychological dominion over your emotional state and peace. They have successfully relocated the burden of the conflict entirely onto your shoulders through simple, quiet inaction. In friendships, this pattern appears as the person who never shares their own personal life struggles. They listen intently to your problems, making you feel heard, but they remain a total mystery. This creates a power imbalance where you are exposed and they are completely and safely armored. You feel a sense of debt to them, even though they have provided no real vulnerability. Within families, the quiet one is often the person whom everyone else is most afraid to upset. Their disapproval is signaled not by a shout, but by a slight shift in their physical presence. The family learns to walk on eggshells to avoid the withdrawal of affection that silence usually signals. This is a form of social engineering that uses absence, a more potent weapon than presence. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a boss who stares. They let a long, uncomfortable pause hang in the air after you finish speaking to them. In that gap, your mind begins to invent 1,000 ways that you might have failed. The silent person is not doing anything, yet they are reshaping your entire internal self-perception and confidence. This dynamic is a social theater where the person who speaks the least is the director. We are drawn to their mystery, but we are also quietly enslaved by our own projections. The silent individual allows us to hang our own insecurities on their blank and unmoving face. This is where the pattern becomes a social poison that prevents any form of honest exchange. Real connection requires a mutual exchange of ideas, but the silent person only takes from you. They harvest your words, your fears, and your secrets while giving nothing of their own in return. This creates a parasitic social relationship where one person grows stronger while the other is slowly drained. What looks like a peaceful personality is often a sophisticated mechanism for extracting social and emotional data. In romantic life, this can lead to a state of permanent anxiety for the person who speaks. You become the loud one or the crazy one because you are the only one reacting. The silent person remains calm, which society often mistakes for being the more rational and mature. But their calm is a provocation designed to keep you in a state of high emotional arousal. By observing this in others, you start to see the predatory nature of the quiet void. It is a way of winning every social game by refusing to put any skin in. The social expression of the hidden self is a dance of shadows where you are alone. The digital landscape has transformed the quiet observer into a powerful architect of modern social reality. In the past, silence was localized to a room or a specific conversation between two people. Today, the internet allows for a passive presence that exerts influence over thousands without ever typing. Modern social platforms reward those who curate a lifestyle of minimal, highly controlled, and cryptic output. By revealing very little, these individuals create a vacuum that the public fills with intense collective obsession. This is the psychological equivalent of the stone wall scaled up to a massive global professional level. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, like a friend who never posts. You check their profile and find it empty, which makes you more curious about their hidden life. Their absence on the timeline becomes a statement of high status and supreme personal digital discipline. They are not participating in the noisy race for attention, which makes their attention feel more valuable. In professional settings, the silent leader uses digital communication to maintain a sense of deep mystery. They may read every message in a group chat, but never reply with an emoji or word. This behavior forces the rest of the team to wonder if they are being judged or watched. The modern environment is so saturated with noise that the lack of noise becomes a loud signal. Society quietly rewards this pattern by associating a lack of digital footprints with mystery and profound power. We have been conditioned to believe that the person who is too busy to post is winning. This cultural expectation intensifies the survival instinct to use silence as a way to maintain elite status. The cost of this amplification is the death of genuine, open, and transparent human digital discourse. We are moving toward a world where the most influential people are the ones who share nothing. They observe the data of the masses while remaining entirely invisible to the people they monitor. This creates a digital hierarchy that mirrors the primitive tribe, but with much higher and deadlier stakes. The hidden self thrives in an age of data because it knows that privacy is the ultimate leverage. By saying nothing, these individuals avoid the cancel culture that targets those who dare to speak up. They remain safe in the shadows while the loud and the brave are torn apart by the crowd. Modern life has taught us that every word we put online is a permanent hostility for our future. Consequently, the most adaptive survival strategy is to become a ghost in the machine of society. We see this in high-level power dynamics where the real decisions are made in total, heavy silence. The public is fed a diet of loud distractions while the quiet, the most unsettling reality of the quiet observer is that their power remains even after it is identified. You can name the strategy and see the vacuum, but your mind will still rush to fill it. Recognizing silence, a weapon, does not stop the instinctual anxiety that a blank stare creates within. The brain is biologically allergic to missing information and will always invent a narrative to find closure. The silent person knows this and simply waits for your own imagination to do their difficult work. Understanding the hidden self provides no shield against the heavy weight of a partner as cold withdrawal. Most people first notice this pattern in someone close to them, but rarely see their own calculated pauses. We all use silence to hide our ignorance or to gain a slight edge in a tense moment. It is a fundamental part of the human survival kit that we cannot simply choose to discard. Carl Jung suggested that what we do not bring to consciousness returns to us as our fate. The silence you encounter in others is a mirror of the parts of yourself you fear to voice. This creates a permanent tension in our relationships that no amount of honest communication can fully resolve. The quiet one will always have the advantage because they have less to lose in the light. You are now aware of the predatory nature of the void, but you are still standing within it. There is no simple solution to a power dynamic that is fueled by your own basic biology. The more you try to force a silent person to speak, the more power you grant them. This clarity offers no relief, only the uncomfortable realization that you are being managed by nothing. You will leave this reflection and likely encounter a heavy silence before the sun sets today. You will feel the urge to speak, to explain, or to apologize just to stop the internal noise. Knowing the trap is set does not mean you will not still fall into the open hole. The pattern continues because it is the most efficient way to exist without ever being truly vulnerable. Choosing awareness over avoidance means accepting that some rooms will always be controlled by the unspoken word. Staying with uncomfortable psychological truth is the only way to navigate a world built on hidden leverage. Join a space where unspoken patterns are examined honestly, even when the silence remains completely and totally unbroken. The strategy of the silent observer is only one layer of the masks we wear to survive. Beneath the withheld word lies an even deeper mystery regarding how we perceive our own social value. We often assume that our silence is a sign of peace, but it may be something darker. This leaves us with the unresolved idea: is your silence a sanctuary or is it a cage? There is a hidden connection between our need for privacy and our fear of being truly inadequate. Understanding this changes how you perceive every quiet moment you share with another human being tonight. Perhaps the most dangerous person is not the one who screams, but the one who watches. What is your mind trying to protect when you choose to say absolutely nothing at all?